Hi guys, and welcome to the fourth and last Advent special. I can't believe that it's already Christmas. December went by so fast. Maybe you will notice I made a little purchase for the channel. I purchased a ring light which I can kind of clip on to my laptop. And it actually wasn't that expensive, and it's quite cool, and I can clearly see the difference in the lighting. I hope it is better and that you can see that too. In the last Advent special, the lighting was so bad because it was so dim and dark outside at kind of 2 in the afternoon. So I was like, oh gosh, I need something to help the lighting situation of this channel now during winter, and I could also use it for photography stuff, so I'm really happy with the purchase. And yeah, it has different kind of settings. I can do natural light, warm light, or cool light. I think I will go with a natural light, kind of a mixture, because it's, yeah, more natural. I am also wearing nothing special, just my really well-worn and loved oversized top-down raglan jumper. It's the Raglano from Crasy Syvlie. It was my first knit-along I did. It was the first top-down raglan sweater I did. It's some time ago. I can't actually remember when I did it. I think it's 2.5 years maybe. It was really at the beginning. The wool is the long yarn Malou, but not the fine one, the big one, the chunky one, which it doesn't exist anymore. And yes, there's a lot of pilling going on, but I love it that much, and it was always meant to be like a wearing at home cozy sweater, and yeah, I just love wearing it. I made a V-neck. I kind of had to close it up a bit more this summer because it kind of stretched out a bit, so I closed it up a bit so it doesn't slide off my shoulders. I love it. It's not my best work, of course. It's the first one, so it has its flaws, but I love to wear it nonetheless. It's just so cozy and warm, and yeah, love it. So in this last Advent special video, I want to show you all of my knitting books I own. It's quite a few. Before I was a teacher or became a teacher, I made an apprenticeship as a bookbinder. So I made books, and my love of books is still here. Obviously, I love books. I would love to make them. I actually can't find the time with the knitting and the painting, drawing, my horse, everything, work, everything else. But I hope that at some point I will find the time to restart making books. I just like working with leather and the different textures and paper and the glues, and yeah, it's a wonderful profession. I do not only love self-made books, I also love to buy books and read books. This bookshelf here behind me is actually my partner's, Ian's, bookshelf. I have 2 of those, the exact same ones. They are just over there on the side wall, and they are full. For the longest time I had 2 knitting books, which will be the first ones I show you, and I learned a lot of them. I used them a lot, and then I started to acquire more and more books. I try to sort them a bit into kind of topics, kind of recipe beginners books, sock books, jumpers, Nordic knitwear, shawls, and the last one will be when I knit 15 years and I'm really good at it. I will try and tackle something out of this book. It is kind of where I want to go with my knitting book. So the first 2 knitting books I'm showing to you are the ones I had for the longest time. And some knitting books are in German, and I don't think they are available in English, also because they are quite old. So yeah, if you speaking German or can read German, maybe it's a good thing for you to try out a German book. If not, I'm sorry, most of them are in English, but not all of them. So my first book I bought, and I think I bought it around 2000 or something, so it's really old. I was still in school and I kind of wanted to knit a bit more, and I bought this Stricken Basics book by Topp Verlag. Topp Verlag is a very famous, how do you say that, publisher of books like DIY books. And I like the style they have there. It's a very clear style. It's very easy, nice to follow, like, you know, basics explained. And just a really good teaching book. This book taught me a lot and helped me understand knitting a bit more. It's explained what a knit stitch and a purl stitch is, how to deal with wool, how to cast on, the simple cast on. You have some stitch patterns in it, which I always love, but you also have full patterns in it. Little bunny, so different kinds of patterns like stuffed animals. Yeah, just really nice tips and patterns, and I like this book. It's a lovely one. I don't refer to it now as much as I used to, because I kind of outgrown it, I guess. So yeah, maybe it's worth that I go back and take a look at those patterns. They are really nice, actually. But I have so many other books with patterns and Ravelry coming along. Ravelry, I think, didn't exist at the time I bought this book. So yeah, I really like that one. The second book, and maybe the oldest one in my collection, and I already showed it to you, is the Falken Handbuch Stricken. It's from the 80s, I think, or 90s, or even before. 83. It's 1983. And it's mostly a book. You also have some explanations in it, but it's mainly kind of a stitch pattern book. So you have stripes, squares, like you have everything in there. It's a wonderful book, and I refer to it quite a lot if I'm looking for a stitch pattern, like I did for my romantic summer tea. I think that was episode 1 or 2, I'm not sure anymore. It's a long time ago, where I kind of invented a summer shirt with a little bit of a stitch pattern. This was the one I used. This here, that one, but just a kind of one row repeat, and on the sleeves like 3 times or so. So it's a lovely book. I love it. You also have patterns in it, shoes, hats, socks, but they are quite antique, ancient. So it's not in the round. Often it's kind of, you have to seam things up, which is not the way I want to go for my knitting. Then I bought, I told you, the Vogue Knitting Ultimate Stitch Dictionary. This, of course, is a very modern version of this one, and it's just wonderful. It has lovely patterns in it. I love it. I can't wait to kind of invent a new jumper or something and try out one of those stitch patterns, or maybe a shawl or something. There are marvelous patterns in there. It's just wonderful. So you have different topics, kind of lace, cables, knit purl. So you have woven things, color work. You have everything in here, and yeah, it's a wonderful book. I can only recommend it if you are looking, or sometimes looking for stitch patterns. I would recommend that one. It's a huge one, but it's so lovely. And then I bought a kind of a recipe book for top-down sweaters by Anne Budd. This is a recipe book, so it has some patterns in it. For example, and I can show this very well because I can kind of flip it. So you have kind of patterns in it, but you have the different types of sweaters, top-down sweaters. So you have a yoke sweater, you have the raglan, you have the satin sleeve, and you have the drop shoulder, I think. Oh no, saddle shoulder. You don't have a drop shoulder, you have a saddle shoulder, which looks quite similar. You have nice patterns. I think I might even do one of those, maybe change up the stitching pattern sometimes, or the design. I would say the designs are not the most modern ones. You know, they are sometimes a bit much maybe, but overall the kind of forgetting the hang on how to knit a raglan, how to knit a yoke sweater, how to knit a satin sleeve, I really want to refer to this book. And you have all the sizes for all the yarns, from children to adult. You have kind of a lot of tabbles in it, which I'm not showing, of course, any closer. But you have for every type of sweater, you have these sizes with the stitch count, with the gauge, with finished bust circumferences ranging from adult from 36 to 54-inch bust. And you have children sizes also, and you get a full-on description on how to work a raglan, a top-down raglan, a top-down yoke, and so on. So this is, I think, a really handy book. I didn't come to kind of do something out of it. Now let's move on. The next section is kind of a Nordic knits. I have this book, can I say? Yeah, Winter Knits from Scandinavia. And it's mostly mitts and hats and socks, so it's kind of accessories. And you have just wonderful patterns in it, and this is really high up this winter for me to knit myself some actual mitts, not just fingerless ones. There are just so many lovely patterns in there of mittens, and I mean, my goal, totally. I mean, who doesn't want horse mitts? So it's wonderful, and I kind of picked out 3 or 2 mitts patterns which I really want to make. I picked out more the more simple ones. For example, those, the Felicia mitts, I really like those. Or the Ellie mittens, I really love those. I think those might be the first ones I try, because I just love how they look. I love the little string around it. I'm not sure if I want to do that, because I'm not sure how I would kind of tie it up if your hand is in a mitt. But it looks lovely. But I think I will leave out the string. Yeah, lovely. Just wonderful book. And I'm looking forward to knit something out of this. The next one is the book I may have used the most so far, together with the stitch pattern book, the old one. And it's the book Island Pullover by Wenke Müller. And I really, really love this book. I think it was one of the first books I bought, because I wanted really to knit a jumper, and then my colleague said, yeah, you have to see top-down yoke or raglan. And I saw this book, and I was like, oh, it's easy patterns. Like the actual colorwork patterns are not hard. Not as complicated. So I did this one, the Astildur, actually in purple. You've seen it in another episode, I think. Was it 6, 7? Oh, I'm so bad. I don't know how I will do this if I have like 50 episodes. I can't remember where I put anything. You also have just some really simple stitch patterns, and I like that. And I'm thinking about making a Advent calendar jumper, and why not doing like a yoke pullover and kind of do this simple stitch pattern with a basic color. So yeah, and it has also sweaters for guys, but most of them are really unisex. I just finished my dad's sweater, which actually on the Hildur, which actually is here modeled by a woman, and I just took the stitch count, and what I think is the sleeves, they are all a bit tight at the upper arm. When you pick up the sleeve stitches as they suggested in the book, I think they are a bit tight, so I most of the time go up a size in the sleeves. So when I'm knitting an S for me, I would take up the stitches for an M. And I always take up more stitches than I need to, and then kind of in the first 2 rounds kind of decrease to this amount I want, which just makes it nice and tight under the armhole. You don't have any holes, and you can kind of play a bit around a bit with the stitch count. So I knit already, my first 2 jumpers I knit are actually out of this book after the Asthildur recipe here, but I kind of left out the colorwork thing. I just made plain yoke sweaters top down, and then I did the Asthildur, the real one with the pattern, because I really liked that one. And now I did the one for my dad, so I already knitted out 4 jumpers out of this book after 2 recipes. And you also have some hats and mitts and socks and the headband, so there are other things in there too. Not much, most of this is jumpers, and I really like that the colorwork patterns are really not that complicated. For a beginner jumper knitter, I would totally recommend this book, I think, but it's only available in German. Now the newest Nordic knit book is Nordic Top Down und Nahtlos gestrickt, and I think this one is available. I've seen it on a podcast, on an English speaking podcast, because this one is called Strands of Joy in the original, and Laine Publishing OY is the publisher, the original one. And I mean, the colorworks, I think they are from different designers in here, and I just have kind of marked about 5 or 6 marks in there, but I narrowed it down to 1. The one I really want to do, and it's on my knitting plans list kind of for going into next autumn, which is the foliage. I mean, look at this colorwork. It is wonderful. I love it. I'm not sure if I do the 2-colored ribbing. I think it takes away a bit from the beautiful leaf pattern. I mean, but it's not a trouble at all to just make it 1 color. I just love this one, and I also love the Lito. So there are so many ones. Also the jackets, and like this dress. I mean, so lovely. I'm not really wanting to knit a dress, but if I wanted to, that would be one I really liked. Yeah, definitely going to knit something out of this one too next year. I have 2 sock books. Socken ganz einfach stricken by Crazy Syvlie. It's kind of also a recipe book, because in the beginning she talks about what parts are called, what you have to look out for, what kind of toe shapes there are, what kind of heel shapes for the actual foot, and how you can match the perfect heel and the perfect toe to those shapes. And you have descriptions of kind of how a heel goes, how, like, not in a pattern included, just the heel. And you have different kinds of heels. They are described and shown here. They tell you what kind of heel or foot they are for, which I think is very handy, especially if I want to knit socks for someone else. So it's 2 sides of heel, 3 pages of heels, then there are toes, different kind of toes. So this is really a very informative and very good book, and really helped me find my perfect sock recipe. There are patterns, there are ribbing, different styles of, and you have some sock patterns actually, like this one for example. Lovely one. And it's always told here if it's top down, toe up, if you can go both ways, how you can knit it, what kind of toe she uses, what kind of heel, but of course you can always change that out, and that is what I really like in this book. I didn't do a specific pattern out of this book, but I used a lot of the ribbings and the heels and some patterns So it really helped me find my vanilla sock recipe. And the second one I think is a very famous one. It's the Charming Colorwork Socks by Charlotte Stone. Stone. And I actually have the English version. I think there is a German one coming. And I attempted to knit colorwork socks like 2 times so far, and it wasn't very successful because I'm a really tight knitter. So yeah, I couldn't kind of get them over my foot at the end, especially the ones I made with cotton. I gifted those to my mom because she has a lot smaller feet than I have, and they would fit her. And the second ones are my mushroom socks by Charlotte Stone, Magic Toadstool socks. And I kind of had to knit the top part, I think 5 times at least, because I could not make it fit over my foot. I just left it aside. I was so frustrated. I said, okay, maybe colorwork socks is not for me. But I think the thing is I need to knit them on magic loop and not on my DPNs as I normally used to knit my socks. So at least the colorwork part I need to do on the magic loop because I then can distribute the stitches. It's just easier. I realized that when I knitted my dad's jumper, it had colorwork on the sleeves. For this little part, I took the magic loop and it came out fine. It really came out fine. And I think with the DPNs, I knit even tighter, which I like because they don't fall out then. But for colorwork, it's not very helpful. So I will give this a go. I got so many lovely little scraps of sock yarns from Christine from the Knit and See channel in our Scrappy Yarn Advent swap, and I can't wait to try those out. And I think 10 grams minis, it's enough to kind of try those little, you know, top colorwork parts, or do it in different. I mean, why not do those little stripy ones with the ice cones on it? I would have totally the colors to do that. Yeah, maybe even like this, you know? Change all my scraps, kind of match them up a bit color-wise, and then take a nice contrast color, and they would kind of change. That would be actually quite cool. But I think I will try one that is not full on colorwork, although I always do my socks toe up, so I could try them on whilst doing them. And she gives a lot of tips, and I did all the tips she gives me in this book, and they still did not fit. But until then, I tweaked my vanilla sock recipe pattern. I kind of went up with the stitches on my leg because I didn't like how stretched out it was. I like my socks to fit snugly, but it was a bit too stretched out for me. And I went down half an easel size, so yeah, maybe I have more room to wiggle around, and I will definitely give colorwork socks a try again because I just love them. I mean, the ones at the front, how adorable. I love them. So these are my 2 sock books, and I don't think I will buy a lot of sock books because mostly I prefer just doing vanilla socks, and I have enough sock patterns to get me through many years of sock knitting. I am a huge Harry Potter fan since childhood, and I love this Topp Verlag Harry Potter Stricken. I think this one is available in English. Harry Potter Knitting Magic, the official Harry Potter knitting pattern book. So this one is available in English. I mean, guys, come on. There are so many nice and fun things in there. That kind of nerdy stuff, I kind of love it. And I like that you can alter it, that it's not that obvious Harry Potter freak nerds thing. I mean, I wouldn't knit myself kind of a Weasley jumper. I wanted to knit the Hermione's Time Turner sweater, but I actually took the wrong wool for it, and it looked terrible, and I ripped it out. But I really intend to make this one again because I really like the colorwork pattern. I left out the actual time turner. I just did this part once more to close it. It worked fine. It was one of my first tries in knitting with a real colorwork, and I just didn't know how to choose the correct wool for my gauge and my knitting style. And now I know that, and I know that I generally can go up or take a bit of a thicker wool because I'm that tight of a knitter. I really want to make this one. I love the mitts that are in there. I love the sock pattern. I mean, why not make like little snitch socks? How adorable. Love the book. I just love to look at it and kind of get a bit nerdy about it. The second film book I have, only because I like the series. I like the TV series. I'm not a kind of a nerdy fan, but I love it. I love watching it. And I really love the costuming. And when I watched it, I was like, I love the knitwear that is in there. I bought myself the Outlander knitting book. It's by different kind of designers are in there. It's kind of a collection of knitting patterns. And there is just everything in there. There is shawls, little capelets, mitts, fingerless mitts. And I really like that. Sometimes it's very much just inspired. For example, I really like this shawl, which was inspired by a dress, which in the series I can remember I saw this dress and I was like, wow, loved it. Love that dress with the red and the white lacy parts, and I love that inspired shawl, and it's a very easy one. So maybe if I really need something easy in between, you have color work, you have socks, you have actually really nice socks in there, you have capes, you have vest, lovely stuff in there. Looking forward to try something out of this, but it's not in my immediate knitting plans. I just love looking at books also. This one is a lovely one to look at. And the explanations behind all the designs from the TV series, I always find that very interesting. Now the book I also knitted kind of a lot out of is another Topp Verlag book. It's Naturverliebt Tücherstricken, Cottage Dreams. It just kind of popped up and I saw this shawl, this title, and I was like, wow, I need this shawl. And I actually just bought the book because of this shawl. It was in a sale and I had percentages and it wasn't that expensive. And then I started looking through it and it was like, wow, there are a lot of lovely shawl patterns in it. And I'm not sure if there actually is an English version of this. No, I think it's only German. It's only a German version. So I made this vintage vibe shawl. That was the first one I did because it was my first ever shawl and I was like, oh, I'm not doing the big lacy one. I'm trying to get an easy one for the start, just to get the hang of how to knit a shawl. And then I did this afternoon tea shawl, which I love it. I love wearing it in summer. I made it exactly with the same wool as suggested in here, which is a lovely one. It's a Lana Grossa Landlust, which is silk and cotton blend, and I took it in a very neutral beige. You've seen my shawl, I think in episode 2, but I'm not sure again. So I showed it to you and I just love wearing that one. It's huge and it was such hard work knitting it because at the end you have kind of 500 stitches and I had like 40 minutes for one row. It was like, oh, I really had to force myself to knit it, but it's so wonderful. I love it. Really love this shawl. The only thing that I don't like about this book, and I'm not sure if it's this, the first one was fine, no mistakes in there, the first shawl, but in this shawl pattern there actually were mistakes in the chart. The kind of repeat lines were different and some symbols were not correct. And I was a fairly beginner knitter, so I didn't realize it at first. I just knit and then I kind of, why is the pattern not lining up? Why is it not looking like in the pictures? And then I realized that I'm not doing a symmetrical thing, like there is something wrong. I could figure it out, even as a fair beginner, so it's not that hard of a lace pattern. And I wrote actually to the Topp Verlag, to the one that is in the back where you can write, and she kind of thanked me and gave me a corrigendum, but also in the corrigendum was a mistake. So I wrote her again and said, hey, even your corrigendum isn't correct. So this is a bit, I kind of was a bit frustrated, and I didn't knit something out of this again because I'm a bit afraid that there are other mistakes in it. There are really cool designs in there, like for example I really like this one where you can really kind of wrap it around your waist and tie it in the back, and you have really intricate lacing shawls in there. It has a bit of everything. I really like it, and I might knit one out of this one again. It's just a wonderful book. I like it, and the 2 shawls I knitted out of this one are really gorgeous. Now the last book. It is something I love looking at, and I bought it. Was it in a Fruity Knitting podcast episode? I saw this one and I was like, oh my gosh, this is possible with knitting. And I had to buy the book, and I was like, I knew when I bought it, I will not anytime soon knit something out of this. This is way, way too complicated for me still, and for my knitting skills. But wow, these designs. And it's the Alice Starmore Tudor Roses book. And I mean, it just hits my vibe. I love this kind of retro, vintage, old-timey aspects in my clothing, as you might have seen in the last How I Style My Knitwear video. And I mean, these things, you can go really wild there with the colors, but you can keep it very simple and neutral and kind of modern. If you wear it with the modern clothes, then it will look fabulous. But I mean, look at this vest. I mean, this is just, oh, knitting dreams. Or this jacket, like the shape of it and how it fits, it's just, wow, I love it. It's kind of, I mean, how? This is just so wonderful. The instructions are kind of very tiny and feeling a little bit endless, and I'm not sure if well, it's just pages of, I can show it from far. These are kind of the instructions. It's kind of intimidating, but wow, these things in here is just this. If I can knit this, then I'll say I'm a good knitter. But I mean, these are wonderful designs, and I know a lot of them are kind of seamed and you kind of knit them flat, which kind of scares me even more, especially with the colorwork parts. But you also have, I mean, just this jumper. Look how this looks, the photos, everything is just marvelous. Would I knit this one? Maybe not, or I would definitely knit it shorter than it is on here. Look at this jacket. I mean, how cool would that be on an autumn day? And I actually really love the color combo. This green with the maroon stuff. Oh, and how the color just stands up. It's like, I can't wrap my head around how this is possible. And this is definitely seamed. So yeah, it's not something I plan to do in the next few years, but holy crap, look at this. This looks tailored. Wonderful. I would love one of those jackets, actually. It's the thing I really love most in the book. And also the jumpers that are in there. Wow. Wow, wow, wow is all I can say to this book. I don't want to pressure myself. I kind of, when I feel the time is right, I will take out this book and knit one of those things. And if it takes me 2 to 3 years to knit it, I don't care. I really want that one jacket and the vest. It's marvelous. And with this wonderful book, I end this last episode of my Advent special. I'm wishing you all a very Merry Christmas. And my next regular podcast episode, I think, will be out at the very beginning of the new 2024 year. I don't think I can find the time before that to make the episode. So I will just take some days off from YouTube also, and you will see me at the very beginning, 2nd or 3rd of January, I guess. You will see me with a new podcast, regular podcast episode. We have a lot of catching up to do there. I want to show you a lot of finished knits and also plans, what I'm planning to do, what I started, what I plan in 2024, which is my first real full year of podcasting, as I started in May. So, Merry Christmas and enjoy the quiet time. Bye.